Welcome everybody to UFO ET Experiencers, formerly of Long Island, but now we're worldwide because of Zoom. So I'm very, very excited tonight because we have a wonderful guest speaker on who is a filmmaker. He's a producer of the film, and he also stars in the film, and he wrote the film. His name is John Yost, and there are also other people in the film beside him, but it is really about his journey and how he's navigated this very special journey. So and today is the day that the film came out. It is called Alien Abduction Answers, which is fascinating. So we've been waiting for the answers for a long time. So I'm going to ask John if he would like to just start by sharing some of his story with us. And John, if you feel comfortable, just taking it from where you feel comfortable and where you want to go with it.
Well, certainly. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you, Catherine, for the invitation. I really appreciate it. It's a real pleasure to be with all of you good people. And so good evening, arigato, bonsoir, dzień dobry, and let's begin. My name is John Yost, and I'm a nobody. I'm just a kid from Pennsylvania who grew up normally. I have a normal life, and I have a 9-to-5 job that just so happens to be in filmmaking. So I make commercials and TV shows, and that's what I do. I'm going to tell this story a little backwards because it'll have details in it that aren't in the film. So that's why I asked earlier if some people had seen the film, because I'd like to tell you something new as well. I have done hundreds, thousands of projects around the world. True crime, sports, history, food and travel. And so we always consider ourselves guns for hire, right? So say Esquire or Fox or ABC comes in and they want to do or BBC, and they want to do a big project. Well, they might come over with their executives and they'll need an army of us to actually do the work, right? Turn the wrenches. And so I'm considered what they call a line producer. I put together the team, I put together all the logistics, I move everybody, and we get the job done. I'm a Virgo, so I check boxes, and I'm very good at it. So what had happened was we got an opportunity to bid on a paranormal film. And so I bid it correctly, and we got the opportunity. And so we went out to Borrego Springs, California. And I don't know if you know that area, but it's very flat and it's desert, it's arid. And I had, at this point in my life, I had no experience with the UFO community, no experience with any kind of parapsychology or any of that sort of thing. It was just, I'm a guy doing my business. And so I didn't really know what to think of this whole matter. And this was about, people going out into the field and trying to contact UFOs. And I thought, this is a little out of my world, right? And anyway, we had been there 3 days. There had been no activity. And we had all the toys. We have drones and we have cameras and we have all this special stuff. And about the third night, we had finished up. And when we record all of this information, we download it to these hard drives so it doesn't get lost, and we can have fresh hard drives to film the next day. And I was outside by the pool with one of my cameramen, and there were about 12 or 15 people with us. And so they bring out the wine and the whiskey, and people are going to pour a drink and kind of make a few toasts. And I'm holding my glass, and I like this. Just then, during the toast, I saw a glint in my glass. And my mind is thinking, oh, that's the moon. The moon is in my, and then I'm realizing, wait a second, we are specifically here because it is the new moon. There's no moon. It's black outside. And there are no external lights. We're out there. And I'm having a hard time. I bring the glass down to drink, and what I see behind my glass really changes everything for me. I see over my left shoulder about 45 degrees and about 30 feet in the air this very large blue-green glowing oblong egg-shaped type thing. My mind is racing to figure out what this is. And I'm saying to myself, it's a Mylar balloon. Like, when you go to a hospital and you bring a get well balloon, this is my mind. I'm trying to make sense of what I'm seeing. But it wasn't shiny, and the glow was inside. And it was as big as a Volkswagen. And I could have hit it with a baseball. I literally could have thrown a ball and hit it. And I'm shocked. And I grab my cameraman, one of my cameramen, Scotty, and I turn him, and he says, oh, just then, all of the people who are with us, the 12 or 15 people, they all turn and they say, welcome, thank you. And I'm saying to myself, are you out of your damn minds? What the hell is going on here, right? This thing zigzags and stops right above me and freezes. And well, I'll get to that in a second. And then it zigzags away from me and stops over the house. And then it just drifts off into the desert. And the people who are with me are all jubilant. They're all happy. And I am terrified. Now, remember, as I said to you, I'm in charge. I'm, not a little kid. I'm a grown man. I've got to keep my stuff together. And I am having a hard time. So I say, very polite good evenings. I drink my drink and I go back to my room, and I'm not proud of this. I barricade the door. And I have a very, very difficult night. Now, that story happened 3 years ago. Let me take you back to 1974. I was a boy of 7 years old, and it was August. And I awoke to hear this droning hum. And I'm going to embarrass myself by trying to imitate it. It was like this. Like that. So I sit up on the side of my bed and I wipe the sleep from my eyes, and I'm looking around and I'm disturbed. So I go to the restroom, I go to the bathroom, and I'm there for a while. I turn on the water runs for a really long time. And I don't know why. And I turn it off and I go to open the door. And when I open the door of the bathroom, I am face to face with what to my eyes appear a Japanese television. Yes, Yumi, I got your attention. A Japanese character called Ultraman. Silver, big eyes. Okay, I was a kid. You run home and you watch cartoons and this sort of thing. I had watched Ultraman many times. And to my 7-year-old mind, that is what I was looking at. This Ultraman. Now, in the show, Ultraman is gigantic, but Ultraman to me was my size. Remember, I'm 7 years old. I'm a little boy. I experienced no fear at this point. But what happened was we got very, very close. And I mean nose to nose. And then I felt like the world was slipping out from underneath me. And the way I've described this to other people is this: it feels like if you've ever been in a swimming pool, a very large swimming pool, and you get to that point where your head is just above the water, right? And then and then you start to slide and you can't control yourself, that feeling of being out of control. As a boy, I became terrified. And so what I did was I struggled with this entity, this Ultraman. And during this struggle, we were touching each other. There's this tremendous flash of light. And there was a blast of light, and then it was like a cyclone, or a carousel of lights, like I was in a train and moving very, very fast and looking out the windows, or I was on a carousel that was out of control. And I felt like I was moving, but I couldn't tell. And I was petrified and really fighting for my life. When I finally came to my senses, something happened. This entity and I had switched places. His back, I say he, I don't know. His back was in the bathroom doorway. And my back was to the hallway. And right behind me was a set of hardwood stairs. And as I come back to myself, I'm petrified of this thing. And I am in mid struggle, because for me, no time has changed, right? It was like a comma. Okay, we're struggling. There's this flash of light. All this thing happened. I'm in mid fight for my life. And this entity reaches out with his right hand and he touches me on my left shoulder. And when he does, I feel this tremendous energy. I don't know if it was electric. I don't know if it was heat. I don't know what it was, but I felt this power go through my body and I was thrown back. And as I'm thrown back, I fall down these stairs. Well, I mean, I'm screaming like an idiot, right? I'm 7 years old. I'm screaming like an idiot. I'm terrified. And my parents, their bedroom was on the first floor. So my father's a big guy, and he was a mill worker, and he and my mother run out to find their 7-year-old son sprawled on the floor, screaming his head off, hurt, and saying there's somebody upstairs, right? Well, my dad, he ran up the stairs. He's going to look, he's going to find out. So my mother is consoling me, and my father, he's slamming doors and whatever, and he comes to the top of the stairs, and of course there's no one there. And he looks down at me with disgust, maybe anger, frustration. Anyway, my parents take me back up to my bedroom. And my mother tries to soothe me, and my dad's like, don't make that kid a baby. Remember, this is 1974. It's a world that I'm looking around at the ages here. You all understand. It's not this. Today's a different world. Okay, so don't make a baby out of that kid. The next day, the very next day, remember, this is the summertime, so it's a school break. I'm outside playing with my friends all day. That's what you did. None of this game stuff. We were outside. That's what we did. And so my mother calls me in for dinner. And she says, "Oh, geez, you are reeking. You got to have a bath before dinner." And I'm a little boy, so I don't want. I know, Yumi, you have a son. I saw him last time. He comes in the back there, so he doesn't want to take a bath. I didn't want to take a bath. She's struggling with me. She takes my t-shirt off and she's looking at me. She sees all the bruises, right? Because I had fallen down the stairs. And then she looks at my left shoulder and she says, "Honey, what's that?" And I said, "Mom, I told you Ultraman was in my room." Well, she looked upset and she looked confused. And so she said, "It'll be all right. Everything will be fine." I get the bath, I have dinner, I don't think about it. A few days later, my father is taking me to the doctors. And as we pull into the parking lot of the physician, he says, who's kind of a gruff man, so please forgive me, ladies, some of the language. He says, now listen, when we get in there, I don't want to hear any of this Ultraman shit. You keep that to yourself. You know, I was the eldest son. I would have done anything for my dad. I love my dad. So I said, sure. So I go in and the doctor's looking me over and he sees all the bruises, making sure that I'm okay, no broken bones, that sort of thing. He gets to my shoulder and he says, hey, sport, what happened here? Man, I see my dad. He is in the corner. And I don't know, Lori, I don't know if you have any kids, but you know that look you give, well, moms give the look too. He's giving me the look. And I said, I don't know. I was just playing. Okay. Gave me a lollipop, sent me on my way. And I could hear them talking. And the doctor said something about a very extreme heat. That's all I remember. Anyway, my father's taking me home. As we pull into the driveway in front of the house, he says to me, now listen to me. Boy, I don't want to hear any more of this bullshit about Ultraman. You keep that to yourself. I don't want you to scare your mother. I don't want you to scare your sisters. You shut your mouth about that. I said, okay, Dad. Okay. And so that's when the lying began. And I lied about it my entire life. Now, all through high school and university, I was involved in sports. You know, you're in the locker room. People saw, you know, I lied about it all the time. You know, I got shot. I got bit by a tiger. I mean, anything would have been better than saying, hey, by the way, I was, you know, you don't want to say that. And what happened was it almost became like habit. You know, I see a few of you have eyeglasses on. None of you say to yourself, I am now going to put my eyeglasses on. No, you just grab them and put them on your face and you go about your business. That's the way it was for me. But then I lied about it for 40 plus years. Okay. So now take that same liar who has ignored it and put it in a corner and not thought about it and put him in Borrego Springs. And this, whatever this thing is, stops right above my head and basically calls me out. Basically calls me out. This is the way I kind of felt. And I felt that slipping, like I was slipping in that pool again. And I was petrified. So that's how those two pieces connect. At this point in my life, 3 years ago, I'm having a hard time now. I'm having a hard time because something happened that was so completely blatant, witnessed by 12 or 15 people there, my crew over here, and me. There are no more lies that are going to suffice. Now remember, my memory of this was always clear. It was not a regress memory. I didn't have to remember it under hypnosis. I knew about it. I knew what had happened, but I just pushed it away. I'm sure bad things have happened to all of you that you have tucked away and don't think about, you know, a fight with a family member or a loved one or whatever. You just don't think about it. That was the way it was for me. But now I could not ignore it. And it started to affect me. It started to affect my life, my relationship with my family, my relationship with my workers. And this was a problem. And worse, they noticed. They knew there was a problem. So I often say that I wasn't supposed to be part of this film at all. It's kind of an accident. what was supposed to happen was I was doing research. I wanted to throw myself into this. I said, look, if I can't control myself, because I'd be in the middle of the day and just start weeping like an idiot. And I was petrified of big sky and big water, petrified. And I'm thinking, this is ridiculous. So I started to do research. And then when I found out more about this, and I found out that there were so many people who had had, different experiences, some very similar, some not, I became fascinated by it. And I thought to myself, well, look, some of these people have been able to deal with it, right? And I have got to figure out how to deal with this. So that's really how this all began. And then what pushed me into the movie, and you don't see any of this, but what pushed me into the movie was this. I was in Michigan and I was doing some interviews. And we were once again with kind of a CE5 group. And nothing really had happened. It was the end of the evening, about 11:30, 12, and we were done. And I was helping the crew load up all of the equipment into the van. And somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, listen, did you guys pick up any kind of energy over there on the left?" And I said, "No, we didn't see anything." And so I don't want to be rude to this person. So I kind of look at my crew and give them the old wink, like, "Hey, listen, I'm going to go with them and take a look, and I'll be right with you." And so our plan is that I was going to meet those guys at an all-night diner for dinner, and I'd be about 15 minutes or something. Great. So I'm walking with this person, and we're walking across this huge field. It was a soccer field, and there was a tree line at the end of the soccer field. And I'm walking with them, and we're just talking about the film in general. I still haven't put together the arc. I don't know. I'm just gathering, footage. I don't really know how I'm going to do it. And we get about, I want to say 30, 50, 60 yards, something like this, from the trees. And I'm talking to this person here, and just then this huge light comes out of the middle of the trees, and it hits me right in the chest. It's amber, and it's like somebody has a gigantic flashlight, a very, very powerful flashlight. And I actually could feel it. And I went, what in God's, what I'm reacting, what is happening here? And I said, do you see this? They said, yes, calm down. I'm like, shut your mouth. This is happening. What is going on? And I feel this, I've said it before. It's, they have that kind of tongue-in-cheek joke about a peppermint patty. You eat a peppermint patty and you breathe in and you feel that cool air. That's what it felt like. It felt like ice cold air. And just then I'm saying, oh my God, look at this. A light comes out from the top of the trees, which is now, that's crystal blue light, like an arc electricity, flies out and then flies back in. And I went, oh my God. And just then over here on this side, have you ever drummed your fingers like you're impatient? It was like somebody was drumming their fingers on a glass plane, and every fingertip was another light. And I went, oh, and I have to tell you something. And I don't know how any of you feel, but what we're going to probably do is we're going to probably talk about truth at some point. I've become a very truthful person because I lied for so many years. So I'm going to tell you something I'm not proud of. In my past life, I carried a gun with me for self-protection. I was licensed, I was trained, I had worked with the US government, I'd worked with customs and Treasury Department. So, I mean, I was trained. And I reached for my gun. I was that petrified. I felt like I was being attacked. And I reached for my gun and it wasn't there. And let me tell you something. If I thought I was afraid before, I felt like I was going to die. And just then, so this is all happening like this. Boom. Oh my God, did you see that? This light comes out. I can't believe that. The drumming of the fingers. What the hell is that? And just then, the entire tree line lights up like a Christmas village. Remember in the old days, you would put the train around the Christmas tree, and it was like a Christmas village. And these lights came out and they came at me and kind of disintegrated all around me. And I am about to lose my mind. And this person is saying, okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, you're okay, you're okay, you're okay. Breathe, breathe, breathe. And I am kind of in shock. I'm kind of in shock because I feel that cool air, and I'm just, I don't know how to react. It was something so strange, so alien, if you will. So this person turns me around and we start to walk back to the car. I went to my truck, and I'm gathering myself, and now I'm realizing, oh, I look like an asshole. I look like an absolute asshole because now I'm losing my mind and I'm the guy in charge again. And oh, what is happening? And I'm so angry at myself. So I'm coming to my senses very quickly because I'm replacing fear and anxiety with fury. And we get back to the car, and I kind of businesslike say goodnight. And I get in the car, or in my truck, and I call my team. And I say, guys, listen, you are never going to believe what the hell happened to me. We should have kept the cameras here, this sort of thing. I'll be right there to the diner. Oh, we ate dinner. That was 2 hours ago, John. Where have you been? To me, it was 10 or 15 minutes. To them, all that time, they were back at the hotel already. And I, at that moment, realized that this was not going to let me alone. That something was like knocking on my door saying, we know that you know that you can't hide anymore. So I mentioned earlier before all the good people came about White Sands, New Mexico. Our next stop was White Sands. And I didn't want to go. For some reason, I had real anxiety. And this is, if you knew me, you would say, how could, I'm about 6'3" and about 280 pounds. I'm a big guy. I'm not really concerned about many things. People leave me alone, this sort of thing. And I'm always in charge. So for me to tell you that I didn't like it or I was scared, this is kind of a joke to people who know me. And so I had to keep that inside. And I did not want to go. Well, along with us, there are some people that are not in the film. There was this woman from Florida and this other gentleman from the UK. Very beautiful people, very in touch. They had a lot of experience, and what they were doing is they were advising me. But I had never admitted anything to anybody. I was still lying. I was still a coward. They could tell. They could see that something was going on with me, and they knew that I had to come out because I was going to lose my mind. So what they did was they had worked with our director of photography to set up all these cameras around the place that we were staying, and they confronted me. Well, when they did, that 45 years of lying and all that poison in me flowed out. And I'm not a good looking guy, but I am a very ugly crier, like carnival ugly. And, and so it was bad. And I wept for a long time. And I finally said what had happened to me. And it was a relief. And yet I felt completely hollow inside. And so I told this story, and I went to the bed and I just stuck my head in the shower. I just, for a long, long time. And this happened in front of people. So, I mean, there was no way to hide this. And remember, a bunch of these people work for me. So, and I work for some of these people. I I kid around sometimes. I say, this is not a real resume builder. I want to be president. Not you, John. So, but at that point, something happened to me personally. And that was the big switch where I said, look, I am going to get to the damn bottom of this now. I'm going to stop pussyfooting around. I'm going to stop fooling around. And damn it, I'm going to find out, and I'm going to film everything, and we're going to find, and if I look like a jackass, who cares? Because I need to know. And so the film develops. I gather all the information, and there's this big missing part. And this missing part is this. In all of my frustration and all of my lying, there was a piece that I didn't know. Now remember, when I was 7, I was struggling with this entity. There was a flash of light, all this kaleidoscope, and somehow we got switched. Well, that's a mystery to me. Remember, the whole memory is clear as a bell, but I didn't know how that happened. And I now with this kind of courage and anger and piss and vinegar, I have to find out. So meeting all these wonderful people, and you see it in the film, I know Catherine knows this. I met a woman named Debs Shakti. Debs Shakti is a quantum hypnotherapist. And really, I refer to her, I embarrass her. I refer to her as my guardian angel, really. She's this tiny little person. I mean, I could put her in my pocket. And she is this quantum hypnotherapist who said, listen, I can help you calm yourself down enough to find the information. She said, I'm not going to do any of the work. You will do all the work. And once again, I tell you this, every time I come to one of these impasses, I'm like, really, I push people around for a living. You're going to, and this little tiny woman is going to, she's going to make me turn into jelly, come on, that can't happen. Man, she kicked my ass. She kicked my ass. What you see in the film is the final session, but there had been many sessions prior to kind of break down these walls. And what had happened was basically she relaxed me enough to go to the right filing cabinet, to open the right drawer, to see what had happened during the time that I could not remember, because it was all in there the whole time. And in the film, I know Catherine and some of you good folks, you know what happened. You'll be very surprised. It was not Ultraman who took me. And to be fair, it was not the Gray that took me. So that'll be interesting. Anyway, so this is the film. And so my film is about us, you, me, on this path. And everybody else who either has an interest or doesn't have an interest, they either fit into one of two categories. And I fit into both: fear and ignorance. Ignorance meaning just don't know, right? Or so busy they don't want to look, right? Fear and ignorance. And I hope that the film takes you from fear and ignorance to at least some understanding. Somebody got all over me the other day. They said, oh, answers. Oh, you think you know everything. I said, no. I said, listen to the words. The words matter. Alien abduction, answers. It doesn't say the answer, because this is a huge topic. There are many things to learn. There are many sources of this. Everybody has a different perspective. There are so much. But what I'm hoping to do with the film is allow people a little bit of stability where they can have a foothold or a toehold or something that they can hold, a landmark. that they can come to and say, ah, I have some recognition. The second thing that I want from the film is that I know that a lot of people have conflicting ideas or feelings about it. You know, they think one way, which is very rational, but there are these feelings. There are these feelings which fight that logic. I wanted people who were too afraid to talk about it to live through me. I could be the fool. I could be the idiot. They could make fun of me if they had to. And they could say, well, I'm not like, you know, people watch Jerry Springer, you know, well, I'm not that bad, right? So they could do that, sit on my shoulder and live through this with me and see all of these wonderful people. You know, you'll meet all of these good people that I interviewed, and some of their stories are fantastically strange, but they're all normal folks. I'm looking around here, they're just like you. They're mothers, they're fathers, they're professionals, they have master's degrees, they have design companies, they travel the world. They're real people. They're not tinfoil crazy people who live under a bridge. They're us. And so I wanted that if people couldn't relate to me, they would relate to them. They would say, hey, that's my uncle, or that's my sister, or wow, this is so, it's such a human condition. It's not strange, and it doesn't happen to other people. It happens to us. So my hope for the film is to immerse you in that, to help you and shepherd you through that fear, to get you to the other side where you're still hurt, you're still a little weird, you're still a little whacked out, don't have all the answers, but now we can at least have a conversation. We have some common themes, some common vernacular, you know, and people who have no idea, they now go, oh, well, now I understand why people have such a hard time. That makes sense. I can empathize on a human level. And hopefully this will lead me to my next film. My next film is all about, as I said, this one is from fear and ignorance to some understanding. The next one is from some understanding to integration. Okay, well, if these things are true, how does this affect your life? How does it affect you as a person? You know, one of the promos we have is, you know, I said, isn't this strange? You know, looking up at these shiny lights in the sky, how can that make you rethink how you are, how you treat people, how everything that we do affects everybody else? How we all are one, and it's not some new age bullshit. What it is it's the truth. We're all, you know, whatever you want to say, God, Yahweh, Jehovah, the great source, the you know, an explosion, it doesn't matter. We all came from the same place. We're all made of the same stuff. How does this make change the way that we talk to people and handle ourselves with people, treat ourselves and treat other people? Anyway, so that's the second film, the integration. And then hopefully the third film will take from integration to application, which is like people like Catherine, you know, here she is. She has all of this information, all of this experience. And what does she do? I mean, she could sit in a room and just meditate and have that for herself. No, what she does, she pushes herself out there in the world. She starts something. She brings people together. She talks about it. She wrestles with it. She contrasts it against the real world, the real world. How does it help people? There are people around the world that I have discovered who are using this information to change how they live. You know, would it blow your mind to know that there are people who gather together that meditate that lower the number of crimes in a city? How is that fucking possible? How is it possible? This is what I'll say to you, and this has happened to everybody. Anybody here, everybody here has had this experience. Have you ever had this experience where you feel a little like somebody's, and you turn around and somebody's watching you? Or flip it around, that you're looking at somebody and they turn around and look at you because they can feel you looking at them. Okay. Or how about this? Have you ever thought of somebody and they called, or vice versa? Look, if consciousness does not exist, if it was just local inside this fat head of mine, that could not happen. it's impossible. So there's something to this. And if there's something to this, and we possess this opportunity, it's our responsibility to explore it, and then it's our responsibility to do something with it. And so that's what I got to say. I don't know. Ask me questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was so beautifully said. And wow, there's so much that you just shared with us, John, and thank you. I don't even know where to begin. I think I'm so excited for the work that you're doing, and then the work that you're going to be doing. So it's just gonna get better and better. And I think one of the questions that I have for you, if it's okay, if I can ask
Please.
you,
Sure, go right ahead.
Have you been able to come to an understanding within your family, just as far as being able to talk about this a little more freely, or is it still kind of taboo? And if that's too personal and you don't want to share, I understand.
Oh no, I've already burned these bridges. Welcome to the octagon. You can ask whatever you like. Okay, so I like I said to you, I'm a normal guy. You know, I grew up. I've been married for 30 years. I'm still married to my first wife. Only had one. So that makes me a freak, right? Uh, I have two sons. They're grown and they have wives of their own, and they're beautiful people and successful, and everybody went to university, and it's great. Um, uh, when this stuff was happening to me in the desert and all that, because my family is tight, I always made sure. One of the things that you guys don't know is this. Actually, Catherine, that's a really intuitive question you asked me, and I love you for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Something that is not explored in the film at all is this. Both of my, but by the way, both of my parents are passed. Okay,
I'm sorry.
that's okay. It's okay. My father left 2 years later. I'm one of six. There are a lot of kids, Irish Catholics, so we can't read, so we only have one hobby. We make babies, and so, but the troubles began then. That secrecy, that lying, that poison, and my mother was petrified, and she always was, and she started to drink very heavily. Now, God bless her, she got sober at the end, and I was very proud of her. And she when she died a sober person, but it killed her. And I think that I don't know this, but I tell you from my heart, I believe that encounter had something to do with the beginning of that falling apart of the family. So what I mean to tell you is this: because I'm losing my mind in the desert, losing my mind in Michigan, I am petrified now. All of these thoughts are coming back to me, and I'm saying, I have these two mountains of sons, these two gigantic guys, and these beautiful daughter-in-laws, and this wife of mine that I've been in love with, and I'm going to lose it all. I'm going to lose everything. And so I worked really hard at talking to them and sharing with them. And what I did was, to be frank with you, is I showed them some of the interviews from other people. And so they got, the thing I keep telling everybody is, I want you to see yourself on screen. I want you to see your sister, your brother, or whatever. And so they started to understand. They said, wow, this is interesting. There's something to this. And that's how I broached the subject. So my immediate family, my sons and my daughter-in-laws and my wife, they're still a little, like, hey, dad's, doing some serious work. And yet, through some of this conversation, I've discovered that my boys are involved as well.
Mm.
You know, people talk about generational.
Yeah.
They're saying things to me just unsolicited, and I'm listening now and hearing and seeing with new eyes,
Right.
and I am noticing certain things, and I'm like, oh wow, but they're not ready to do that yet. So
Right.
I'm fine with that. So
Right.
my family, we're very tight, but as you can see, it's complicated. It's very complicated.
Absolutely.
My extended family, I have well, I'm in show business, so I'm, you know, always been kind of the black sheep, right? You know,
Yes.
everybody works for, you know, a computer company or a bank, and then you know, I go make pretty pictures. So I've always been a little goofy, if you will. And so this, I don't know that they take me seriously. And I'm
Mhm.
certain that when this film comes out, there'll be a lot of scoffing.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because as I tell you, and I think you guys kind of pick up, you know, I'm kind of an A personality. I'm a hard charger, go through the door. You know, when you start to see that, you know, Fred Flintstone cry, it's a, you know, it's an ugly and weird thing. So they're going to have a hard time with that, I'm sure of
Yeah, I wonder too. I mean, there could be a possibility that some of them might also be experiencers, but who know, you know, that might
it. Yeah.
open some doors for them to their own understandings too.
I hope, or it
Yeah.
could, or they could react negatively like I did for so many years, you know, or maybe they'll sit back and test the waters and see how I'm treated and then make, you know. So but if that's the case, then I think I'm doing God's work, because that's really what I wanted. I didn't want anybody else to be hurt. I don't want anybody else to, you know, suffer like that. You know, if it's going to be somebody, it can be me. It's fine. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna let somebody else ask a question now.
Sure.
Edna, do you want to go?
Hi.
Hi, Edna.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? First of all, congratulations on the movie. It's excellent. I loved it. I especially like the perspective of Whitley Strieber,
Uh,
how he, classifies the abduction experience.
mm,
Wonderful. And my question to you is, during your last hypnotherapy session, you had like a revelation
yes.
about what all of this was being done, why, and you said for us to be prepared. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. Sure. A lot of people ask me that, Edna,
Okay.
and I have to say, you are absolutely correct. There's something missing there, and that's going to be brought up into the second film. But what Edna is referring to, for folks who haven't seen the film, is this: is at the end of the session, what happens is that Debs literally kind of runs into a wall. Like, I've kind of said everything I can say, and she reaches in and asks for this higher self, this kind of, you know, this consciousness, kind of over consciousness that sees everything, that doesn't really have a personality, that's outside of that, to speak. And it felt so alien to me again. It was like I felt somebody much bigger than me pushing in
Mm.
and speaking through my mouth. It was very strange. But so all of that you'll see. But the specific answer for you, Edna, is this: the we talk in the film about why me, and I'm not talking about why John Yost. I mean, why me in general. You know, why Lori, why Carla, why any of us, why Deborah? Because that's a lot of people. You know, are we special? You know, are we blessed, or are we being punished for something? Right? Well, what is that? And what I've come to believe is that we're all, the entire planet is having some sort of encounter, and some of us are actually awake to it, and some of us are not.
Mm.
Um, but what I was told and what I was shown was that these things that, you know, the Navy kills me, you know, the Air Force kills me. We absolutely have not studied this. This is a bunch of bullshit. By the way, here's 1,000 pages of stuff that we never looked at. And don't ask any questions. What kind of idiots do you think we are, right? And so just recently in April, they dumped another 1,500 pages. Now this is about human interaction with these craft and these. Okay, so but if you notice, they announced it right in the middle of this Ukraine war. So people are busy making money and feeding their kids, and oh my God, the war in Ukraine is terrible. But there's real information in there talking about pregnancies, abductions, burns, marks on the body, the whole bit. This is happening, okay? And it's kind of, people talk about a disclosure. The disclosure happened back in 1952 when they flew over the White House. You know, they flew around, we set up jets, they disappeared, they laughed at us. We just come back in, they popped up again, we chased them again, they laughed at us. They just didn't land. So imagine a country, imagine a world where the powers that be have lied to our faces about studying this, recognizing this, that this is even a phenomenon. And they've threatened people and scared people and maybe killed people, I don't know. But they've done this for 50 some years. Think about this, just as a rhetorical question, and I posit it in the film. If they would go to those lengths, right, to hide shiny lights in the sky, to what ends would they have gone to hide interactions with their citizens? What would they be willing to do? What lengths would they be willing to go to? It boggles the mind. And so what's happening is there is this acceleration. Art Bell used to call it a quickening. Well, it's in hyper gear now. And actually our governments are participating in it. I don't know if you know, but these Senate hearings are starting now. And they're upset at the Department of Defense because they're giving them kind of hollow answers. All of this is kind of by design. What's going to happen is there is going to be not an event, but a series of events where there's no one who can deny it. You know, when everybody in the world goes, what the hell is that over New York City? What the hell is that over Cleveland? What are all of those there? What is going on? But see, if the government doesn't leak this stuff out now, then it's going to be total chaos. But if you notice, watch, they're telling people right now that people have been abducted and had interactions with all this stuff. And people, look, churches haven't closed, right? There haven't been rushes on, bread or toilet paper because of it. People aren't screaming in the streets. This is a slow and methodical thing, and it's been by design. Okay, but what's happening is that we are running out of time as a species, and we are going to be immersed in this. Anybody who's ever given you a snide remark, please be kind to them because they're going to shit their pants. And they're going to shit their pants.
I believe it.
Okay. And so here's the deal. What I was told is, look, people talk about special powers and psychic. I don't have any of that crap. I don't have any of it. I'm a moron. But what I can do is I can talk to people. And so I think my role is to bring that information to folks, to help them assimilate, to help them understand that we are going to have to live with the idea that we're not in control. The problem for humans is we think that we're the top of the food chain and everything is under our dominion. When we truly know that our egos cast their own shadows, when we truly know that we are not the kings and queens of our own destiny, that there's something else, we're going to need some help as a people. And so that's what this is going to be about.
Okay.
And I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes.
Were you given that information during that session, or have you seen like glimpses of that in your memories or anything like that? Or
When during, as you know, because you saw the film, there's that gigantic wall. Okay,
Mhm.
the information is in there. It's encoded,
Okay.
like downloaded into me.
Yeah.
And I mean, once again, I'm a nobody. I'm sure there are thousands, tens of thousands of people who have the same information.
Mhm.
It's just that that's what happened. So the message that came to me is that, okay, look, all of these things are culminating, and part of this is natural. I mean, I don't know where everybody stands on global warming or climate change or whatever, but listen, things are changing, okay? Things are changing. A lot of that has to do with the natural cycles of the sun too. I mean, we used to be covered with ice. We were tropical almost. Antarctica had tropicals. Okay, so the environment changes. Okay, and part of that is the sun. Okay, it's getting hotter on Mars. There are no SUVs on Mars, guys. Okay, so this is all part of it. Yeah, we're exacerbating the issue. Absolutely. But these things are changing. And so what's going to happen is we are not where we need to be as a species to survive it. If you've ever watched any of these zombie movies, where everybody is tribal and they're killing each other. The only way to be able to survive this next thing is for us to join together, to understand that we all are one, to understand that it matters, that we're all one consciousness, to understand that we need everyone. That's the only way to survive it. And our species is important enough to us and to our God and to our creator and to the energy of the universe for us to be taken care of. And that taken care of is not, listen, we're going to do everything for you and here's a cure for cancer. No. It's to, hey, listen, it's time to grow up. It's time to grow up. So that's the deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Elizabeth?
Hi, John, you told your story very well. It was very easy to follow, and I liked how you jumped around and explained how it all fit together. I'm also from Pennsylvania, from central Pennsylvania, so I'm wondering, when you were 7, when that first Ultraman thing happened, where in Pennsylvania was this? I'm just curious.
It's funny that you mentioned that, Elizabeth. I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Okay, and that happened in a suburb of Pittsburgh called Penn Hills, which is east of Pittsburgh. And but it's interesting because there's a segment that's not in the film, and I've used it as a promo for social media. I don't know if some of you have seen it, but it's a study on the years. I don't know if you know this, but there was this huge flap of UFO sightings right smack dab when I was born to 1970. In fact, it was called the biggest flap of its time. And I was born in 1966, which is right in the middle. And in addition to that, I am smack dab in between Kecksburg and Mothman. 50 miles from each. And the reason I didn't make it to the film is I paused and I said, I don't know if that's important. I don't know what I'm trying to say by that. And you hear me I'm like, okay, we'll cut it, because I didn't have a point for it. You have so much stuff on this plate, but how much can you fit into an hour and a half? This can't be Lord of the Rings. Nobody's ever going to watch it.
So maybe the next movie. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
But I also was wondering if you like what's your thought process as far as for your personal story moving forward with whatever's out there, whatever has been contacting you? Like, are you actively trying to contact them, talking to them, or are you just like, well, whenever they come kind of thing? Or
okay,
I'm just curious.
Elizabeth, you're just going to pull the rug out from underneath me, aren't you? Okay, so here's the thing. In the film, remember, there's not a script. It's happening. We turn the cameras on and it's happening. So I'm saying whatever's going on. People are happening. They're saying whatever is going on. Okay, so I say in the film, there's no reason for them to take me anymore because I'm prepared and all this other stuff. Catherine, I'm sure you remember that part where, like, at the end, I'm sitting on the couch after there's no reason for me to, okay, they're not done with me. I'll just give you a couple things. I drive an hour and 10 minutes, an hour and 15 minutes one way to my office. There's no reason it should take 2 hours.
Mm.
This is happening a bunch. I am waking up outside at 3, 4 in the morning. The doors are all locked, the alarms are on, and I'm outside in a t-shirt and some trunks. There's something going on. Now, I have been extremely busy getting the film out and everything else, and there are some photos. In fact, if you want to get a kick, I did an interview with Grant Cameron, and it's on YouTube. I'm sitting in my study and I'm talking to Grant. It comes out a week later. I don't even think about it. I don't watch it, right? Because I've probably done, I want to say 20 interviews so far, and I have another 10 or 12 to do podcasts. And so somebody writes a remark. They say, hey, does anybody see that entity behind John Yost? What? And so, my team, remember, we're all technical people. We edit things for a living. We shoot things for a living. We can see things. We can pull tape apart. We understand it. So we pull it up, and sure enough, behind my left shoulder on the ground, there is this undulating energy that is moving constantly. And somebody said it looked like a bear. And I said, no, it looks like, do you remember that movie Gremlins? Remember the little furry one before he turned evil, the Maguire? Or whatever? He looked like
Yes.
him to me.
Oh,
But
wow.
you see this, it's on YouTube, hang up on me and go take a look.
I'm gonna go look.
Okay, so some of this stuff is happening. There stuff is, and remember,
Yeah.
I never, ever, ever looked forward in my life. I never did. So these cats are not done with me. There's something going on. And I'm not sure what that's about. I honestly, one of the things somebody said to me is, oh, you're doing this or whatever. I said, look, brother, I'm not trying to convince you. I don't want to convince anybody. I'm looking to help people. I never, and I ask all of you right now, I don't know any of you really. I've talked to Catherine a couple of times. Look, if it ever becomes about me and you see me talking like I know something, I want you to call me and tell me I'm an asshole, because I hate that. I hate that and you know who I'm talking about. There are folks out there that anything that happens, the cameras go to what's happening. Like we can't figure it out ourselves. Like we're all idiots. We're children, right? And then of course, well, I could tell you everything for $10.99. That's the paywall. Come on, man. If this is going to change my life and everything is, the end. I mean, for God's sake, this is the most important thing that's ever happened to the human race. What the fuck is wrong with you? So if I ever become like that, you won't have permission to call me an asshole, and I'll say, you know what, you're right. I am.
You are so
Thank you.
funny. You're so funny, John. Thank you. Mimi, did you go? Oh, you have to unmute.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, John. That was really wonderful.
Thank you.
I have a couple comments that I wanted to make. One is that I think that when the government did that phony disclosure, what they actually did is they gave everybody permission to talk about it now. So now I do a show, Vancouver UFO, and our motto is one story at a time. So that's what I do. I interview people who have a story. And then I'm looking at UFO disclosure, citizen disclosure, this and that. It's like everybody is doing it because it needs to be done. So, obviously you're a filmmaker. Obviously they're going to want you to make films, and it's great that you answered the call, because, I think people will be shocked when the truth comes out very soon. I think people will be very shocked. I had my first abduction when I was 14. I was in Quito, Ecuador, and I've never met too many people that saw the same ship as I did, the blue-green ship. So it looks like you and I might have seen the same ship. I just put a picture down in the chat. I don't know if everybody could see it, but it's a blue and green ship that someone in my group saw. and she managed to photograph it in Vancouver a couple years ago. But that's what I saw in 1968. So when I was 14. So I'm really, really happy, just so happy to have met you, and I'm going to watch the film. And I think you're doing a great job, and I love your story. So
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mimi. Debbie? Debbie, can you unmute?
I just want to tell John to stop saying you're a moron, because you're not. This is what you charted before you were born. And you're very open, like all these people. All of us who hang together, we all have a third eye and it's open. And this is something like Catherine charted too before she was born. So you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you're helping everybody. Because people, I think in general, are afraid of UFOs, and they shouldn't be, because they're I don't know what they're doing with you, but it's something you charted, and I'm sure they're not hurting you and you don't remember. So, but yeah, and I think your sons, because people like us always have, I didn't learn till my son was 40 years old that he was seeing spirits. He didn't tell me this. So you just don't share this stuff with you. I mean, I'm a medium and I've done spiritual healing. I have that I was blessed with. So your boys are going to carry this over with you. Just wait till you see how they're going to be, maybe just one of them, but there's always one in a family that eventually down the road connects with spirit. And that's who you're connecting with, the spirit world. So I can't wait to see your movie when I hang up with this thing with Catherine. So, because I didn't get to watch it today, but I'm sure going to love it. It's been great hearing your story. So
Thank you.
keep marching on. You're doing a wonderful job.
Thank
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Carla?
Your filmmaking, you can tell it was really, I think in our UFO community, this takes the Oscar of UFO documentaries. It was so well done. The sound design, I mean, I don't know, you had a lot of courage, if I can say. And I want to go there too, because I think to share such intimate things I appreciated that. And I just want to say thank you. I have another question. Do you find when people question you, it's hard, like for people, like someone in our UFO, we understand these things, but for someone not familiar with it, do you find those questions hard to answer because it's so foreign to them?
Did you hear were you able to hear what she said? Okay.
Yeah. Carla, you said that you watched the film, so you'll see that I use I use a device. Please forgive the name device, but what it is it's a story within a story. For example, if I were going to tell you, good people, about interdimensionality, right? Because as Deborah from Arizona said, what we're dealing with is spirit here. And I'm sure you're all probably at least tertiary familiar with Ray Hernandez and his work
Yes.
about how all of these phenomena are somehow connected, right? Because this is consciousness on this high level, and we are literally bumping into it. So here's an example. Now, Carla, this is not in the film,
Thank you.
but this will answer your question by way of an example. So when people don't understand what I'm talking about, I'm not a moron, I understand. So it can't be that I'm a moron. It's because they're just either afraid of the topic, or they can't handle it, or it's too big, right? So here's an example of interdimensionality and people trying to make a report about a UFO. Okay. So me and Scotty, we're standing beside this fishbowl, and I stick my face in the fishbowl, literally breaking the plane of that water into the world of those fish. Now this fish looks at me and says, what the hell is that? It's never seen something like that before. The face moves like nothing it's ever seen. And it can't believe it. So it comes up to examine it. And as this does, Scotty pulls me out of the water. So a couple of things. Number one, that fish has no idea that this face is attached to a head, attached to a neck, attached to some shoulders and a body that lives in an entirely different world than this fish. Has its own things, its own business. The fish's existence is there, but it's over there and can be interacted with if Scotty and I decide to. But if we don't, they're going to have a hard time coming up to our side because they breathe the water. So the fish turns around and he tells his friends, you're never going to believe what I just saw. And the fish come up and they look. They don't see me. They don't see Scotty. And they say, look, you're full of crap. There's no proof. You're crazy. Okay. What we're dealing with in some of these cases is we're dealing with this ultra-terrestrial idea, this idea that either through some sort of physics that we don't understand or some through a sort of consciousness that we don't understand, literally push themselves into our plane of existence, have interactions with us in certain ways that we don't understand, and they're so strange they confuse us, and then pull back and evaporate. And this is why it's difficult to film them. It's difficult to have that concrete proof. Some of them, and now watch this, now watch this. The reason that it's difficult is because some people will say in our community, oh, absolutely, I have metal from Roswell, or I have, this. Okay. The reason is because we're not dealing with one thing. We're not dealing with one thing. I firmly believe that we're dealing with at least 4 different types of things. And if you'll let me share them with you.